What? Why? Sabrina demanded. The fire department was disbanded. The mayor had to make cuts, and there wasn't room for them in the budget. Charming left us with quite a debt, you know. What are we going to do? Sabrina yelled as the strange man fired another volley of arrows at Baba Yaga's shack. I'll handle it. Uncle Jake fumbled around in his pockets. He took out a golden ring, placed it on his hand, and rubbed it against his coat sleeve to shine the brilliant emerald at its center. He whispered something into it and lit up like a brilliant firecracker. A moment later, the sky emptied buckets of water down everything. There was so much rain that Sabrina could barely see her sister to grab her hand. The rain swallowed up the flames, saving the town from imminent destruction. When the rain slowed, Sabrina realized that the bizarre storm had vanished, along with the men and their weapons. All that was left was a bewildered Baba Yaga and her damaged house. I am not finished, Baba Yaga cried as she craned her head out of one of her broken windows. I'll be back. The house turned and stomped back down the street the way it came. Native Americans? Granny Rhoda asked. Uncle Jake nodded. That's what they look like to me. Mr. Kenneth groaned. And where are they now? They vanished the way they came, into thin air, Uncle Jake said, examining his amulet. I wonder how Mayor Hart will clean up that mess without a coven of witches on her side. The three used to take care of those kinds of things when Charlie was in charge, Granny said. That's her problem now. We still have to deal with Baba Yaga, Mr. Kenneth replied. The truth is, someone has to keep an eye on her. I should track her and make sure she doesn't get too close to the town. No, Granny Rhoda said. Jacob will take care of that. Me? Uncle Jake cried. She threatened to eat me once. I'll go with you, Puck said. I'm learning a lot from the old witch. Fine, Mr. Kenneth. I was hoping you would look after the girls, Granny suggested. What about the case? Daphne said. Granny shook her head, labeling, I'm afraid we're going to have to put detective work on hold. There are too many emergencies to deal with, and we can't be everywhere at the same time. But Sabrina started, but her grandmother threw up her hands. You just can't. Now I have to get ready. Miss White has agreed to take me to the bank. I'm applying for a loan to pay our taxes. Everyone darted off in his or her own direction, leaving Sabrina and Daphne alone with Mr. Kenneth, who didn't look at all happy to be stuck with the girls. So, Sabrina said, as she eyed the old man. His upper fangs had started to creep down his lips. So, he huffed, you're babysitting us, huh? Mr. Kenneth raised his eyebrows, acknowledging his new role. Want to play a game? Daphne asked. We've got Candyland. Mr. Kenneth shifted uncomfortably. No, Daphne cried as she jumped to her feet. I know what we can do. We can play dress up. Sabrina couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps we should continue with our tracking lessons, Mr. Kenneth said to the girls. Put on your boots. We still have a few hours of daylight. Mr. Kenneth led them around the back of the house and deep into the woods. The ground was muddy and there was still a chill in the air, but little buds were sprouting on tree limbs. Sabrina couldn't remember the last time she saw something growing, but soon spring would be in full bloom. Sabrina wondered what the forest would look like when it was fresh and alive. They climbed along a small ravine and up a hill littered with sharp stones and down into a gulch. A tiny creek trickled along with shards of ice floating on top of it. Are we about to lose the house? Daphne asked the old man. Your grandmother's a resourceful woman, Mr. Kenneth said. That's not an answer, Sabrina said. She didn't want to anger the old man, which had become increasingly easy to do, but she needed him to be honest with them. She will not let you down, girls. In the time I have known her, she has never failed or disappointed. I trust her. You should as well. $300,000 is a lot of money, Sabrina pointed out. Yes, it is, the old man replied. Fortunately, the situation will benefit you in your training. Stress is an enemy. It confuses us and makes us question ourselves. The calm, rational mind is the one that finds answers in difficult times. Remember, you will not always have the carefree lives of children, but you will always be grooms, and you will have to find ways to set aside private matters. So you want us to forget about the tax bill? Daphne said. The $300,000 tax bill? Sabrina added. Mr. Canis took an impatient breath. Close your eyes. The girls did as they were told. In the past, we have tracked deer and rabbits as well as the family's dog. You've learned to follow and recognize the prints of many wild animals. Today, you will follow the prints of the most dangerous animal of all, me. I will hide from you in this forest, and you will have to use your senses and what I have taught you to find me. Your grandmother has achieved great skill at this with practice, and she uses these talents quite frequently. Remember, use your senses. Learn to trust what you see, smell, hear, and feel. Allow them to work together, and you two should have no problem locating me. I've got a question, Daphne said. There was no response. Mr. Canis? Sabrina opened her eyes. The old man was gone. She pinched Daphne softly, and the little girl looked around. Well, that was mucho rudo, Daphne complained. Sabrina scanned the dense woods. Canis was nowhere in sight, but he had left a trail in the snow. Following it wouldn't be too difficult. After all, in his semi-altered form, Mr. Canis had what amounted to size 22 shoes. Sabrina pointed to the tracks. He went that way. The girls followed the footprints through some heavy brush. The old man's path showed he was running in one direction and cutting back in the other, obviously trying to confuse them. Are we really going to have to live in a refrigerator box like Puck said? Daphne asked. I don't think we'll all fit in a refrigerator box. Mr. Canis won't for sure. And what about Elvis? I guess we could cut a washing machine. I guess we could get a washing machine box for him. We could even decorate it and cut out some windows. The little girl rambled on, describing how with a little creativity they could turn an old cardboard box into a two-story colonial. While Sabrina led her along the trail Mr. Canis had left. It took them up a steep climb, where they found a couple of branches that doubled as walking sticks that helped their ascent. At the top of the crest, they found more trees, but Mr. Canis's footprints had disappeared. Where did he go? Daphne asked. Maybe he's soaking in our cardboard box jacuzzi, Sabrina replied. Okay, fine, I'll concentrate. Daphne grumbled. It's just I wish I had a magic wand or a crystal ball. Sabrina scanned the area but saw nothing. He couldn't have just vanished into thin air, but... Listen. No. Look, Sabrina said, pointing up at the trees. She saw dozens of limbs splintered and broken, with fresh yellow wood erupting from the rich brown bark. He jumped up there and grabbed those branches. They snapped when he swung to the next tree. I thought he was a wolf, not a monkey. Sabrina scanned the next tree and saw a similar limb. Then he swung over there. See, Daphne said, you're mucho excelento at tracking. Sabrina swore with pride. Her sister was right. She was good at tracking. Thanks, Sabrina said as she pointed toward a row of trees. He went that way. The girls held hands and continued through the woods. It dawned on Sabrina that this was what Puck must have done when he was stalking them during escape training. He used the environment against the girls, finding the little clues their feet and bodies left behind. With a keen eye, the woods could become like a road map, leading them to their destination. It wasn't long before they found another set of Mr. Canis's footprints that led to a churning brook. There his trail ended. Sabrina studied the banks of the stream and searched the trees but saw nothing. What now? Close your eyes, Sabrina told her sister. He told us to use all our senses. She stood quietly, trying to sort through the noises around her. The bubbling water, the creaky branches swaying in the breeze, a bird chirping high in the trees, and then she heard it. A twig snapped in the brush nearby. "He's in there," Sabrina said, pulling her sister along. They pushed through the bushes, even getting on their hands and knees to crawl through. It wasn't easy, and the girls were filthy, but that was the least of their worries. Without warning, the gray sky had filled with dark clouds, and a storm swirled above. A crack of thunder shook the trees, and bolts of lightning burst out of a black hole in the sky. It looked just like the storm that had occurred when the odd man had attacked Baba Yaga and the wandering night Sabrina had imagined Uncle Jake's death. "Maybe we should call it a day," Sabrina said, as she examined the troubling storm. She turned to crawl back the way they came. Once through the bushes, she struggled to her feet and helped her sister do the same. "Mr. Kenneth," Daphne shouted, "we're going home." "A storm is coming," Sabrina shouted. "Can you hear us, Mr. Kenneth?" "I don't know if Kenneth can hear you," a growling voice said from within the bushes, "but I certainly can." Sabrina studied the brush, trying to find the source of the strange yet familiar voice. She heard a rough laughter that seemed to come at them from all sides. Finally, she spotted a pair of eyes peering back at her, and then a monstrous figure pushed forward, uprooting an unfortunate tree that was in its way. When the creature was out in the open, Sabrina nearly screamed. Standing before her was a wolf as big as a grizzly bear, with its on its two back legs like a man. It snarled and snapped at Sabrina as it looked over at the girls curiously. "The wolf!" Daphne gasped. The girls stumbled backwards and fell to the ground. Sabrina's mind was reeling. What had happened to cause Mr. Kenneth to lose control of himself? Why had he let the big bad wolf loose? The wolf stomped forward, shoving its snout into Daphne's face and blasting her with a foul spray. "Don't try to run, girlie," the wolf said as he snatched Daphne by her coat and lifted her off the ground. "You'll just build up my appetite." Sabrina was terrified, but she couldn't let her sister be hurt. She leaped to her feet and rushed at the wolf with her fists clenched. She was met with a painful backhand that sent her slamming into the ground. Her shoulder fell hard on a stone. She cried out and forced herself to stand. Her arm didn't feel broken, but the pain was excruciating. She knew fighting was pointless. The wolf is too big and strong, but I have to do something. She spotted a sharp black rock on the ground, snatched it up, aimed, and flung it as hard as she could. It hit the wolf and bounced off his chest like she had tossed a peanut at him. "Was that supposed to hurt?" he laughed. "No," a voice said from behind Sabrina, "but I bet this will." A flaming rocket blasted past Sabrina and hit the wolf square in the chest. He howled and fell backward, releasing Daphne, who tumbled to the ground. Sabrina rushed to her sister's side and dragged her away, and turned to find out who had saved them. Two women were standing behind her. One was tall and fierce, with long blonde hair and a deadly-looking sword in her hands, as well as an array of weapons strapped around her waist and legs, including daggers, grenades, and a whip. The other woman had dark brown hair and wore a long trench coat that had hundreds of extra pockets sewn into it. It looked just like Uncle Jake's coat. The brown-haired woman was also adorned with necklaces and jewel rings, one of which was glowing. Her expression was stern and serious, like hardened steel. She was beautiful, but her face was marred by a horrible scar. "You're not going to touch the mutt," the blonde woman said, waving her sword in the air. "Or someone's going to get fixed," the woman in the coat added. The wolf clambered to his feet, and that seems to be the end of this video. I'll send more later. Goodbye.